Buenos días, damas y caballeros. My name is Alejandro Kilpatrick, and I represent
Good
the UNEP
morning,
Secretariat.
ladies and
It's my
gentlemen.
great pleasure to moderate this high-level opening ceremony. Throughout this opening, I will be alternating between English and Spanish to respectfully reflect our host countries and the region's language and spirit. Permítanme comenzar expresando nuestro más sincero agradecimiento al gobierno y al pueblo de Panamá
Start by expressing my most sincere appreciation to the government and the people of Panama for choosing this global meeting and for hosting this meeting that sets the commencement of the Climate Week this year. The warmth and hospitality has been exceptional. We feel at home in Panama.
Featuring inspiring and forward-looking statements from our distinguished high-level guests. Following this, we will continue with additional high-level remarks. It is my great pleasure to invite first Mr. Simon Steele, Executive Secretary of the UNEP to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. So, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, colleagues, dear friends, it is my sincere pleasure to welcome you to the first of our newly formatted Climate Weeks. And what a fitting place to start. A country that is carbon negative, a country where more than 65% of land is forested, and a country whose leadership in climate, nature, and sustainable development sets an example for the world. Thank you, Minister Navarro and the government of Panama for your vision, your partnership, and your very, very warm hospitality. Thank you. Friends, this Climate Week marks a new chapter in the way we gather and in what we aim to deliver together. We heard the concerns that Climate Weeks risk becoming disconnected from the intergovernmental process. Valuable conversations, yes, but too often adrift from the engine room of climate implementation. This week, we change that. The revamped Climate Weeks have a clear and vital purpose: to fast-track the journey from ambition to implementation, and to make progress in the real economy the heartbeat of climate progress. We're driven by the urgent need to deliver real outcomes, faster and at scale, and to align even more closely with the work parties have mandated under the Paris Agreement. We've built them around 4 core priorities. First, efficiency, clustering mandated events to save time, costs, and carbon. Second, implementation, making room to advance concrete, real-world solutions. Third, inclusivity, ensuring space for diverse perspectives. And fourth, momentum, creating strategic milestones between negotiation sessions to accelerate action. At the heart of the Climate Week is the new Implementation Forum, a first-of-its-kind platform to bring together governments, multilateral development banks, investors, businesses, civil society, and indigenous peoples to unlock progress across 3 critical pillars: finance, technology, and carbon markets. Because let's be clear, every national climate plan, be it an NDC or a national adaptation plan, and every goal it contains will depend on bold ideas, the people in this room, alongside people like you, taking action. deploying solutions at scale. At the Implementation Forum, we'll launch the AI for Climate Action Award, a genuine effort to accelerate climate action through the power of people and technology, supporting bold ideas in adaptation and mitigation. Because in the face of the climate emergency, there is no substitute for action. And we have made real progress. Thanks to this progress and the tireless work of parties, the world is no longer on a path to 5 degrees of heating. That would have been a death sentence for vast parts of the planet. But we're still heading towards 2.7 degrees. That's not safety, that's still catastrophe. To correct the course, we must do the hard work now. And these new climate weeks are about doing just that. Focusing our efforts, cutting duplication, getting more impact for every hour and dollar spent. And for confronting today's political headwinds. The UN system faces headwinds from fiscal tightening to some skepticism about international cooperation. And so, our response must be emphatic. We must deliver more. More efficiency, more impactful, and more inclusivity, showing real value. That's what this Climate Week represents. It's a signal of our collective intent to ensure that every conversation, every dollar, every partnership moves us closer to 1.5 degrees and greater climate resilience. Here, I'd like to again thank Minister Navarro and the government of Panama for the excellent cooperation and collaboration. And to my deputy, dear Nora, together with a dedicated team from the Secretariat who've worked tirelessly in recent months and weeks to structure and organize this first of the new climate weeks. Friends, let me end with this. If we are to retain and expand trust in the global climate process, we must show that our promises lead to practice. We must show that multilateralism works. We must show that climate action delivers. And that means moving beyond a meeting mindset toward a movement for implementation. This week, let's seize that opportunity to transform climate weeks from spaces for dialogue into platforms for delivery. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Steele, for your inspiring words. Es para mí un gran honor y placer invitar ahora a Su Excelencia.
Me a great pleasure to now invite His Excellence, Mr. Juan Carlos Navarro, Minister of the Environment for the Republic of Panama.
Amigas y amigos, señores todos, es un gran placer inaugurar esta conferencia.
Friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to start this conference right here with all of you on behalf of José Raúl Molino, our president, that welcomes you all. And we want to welcome you, and we want to thank you for being here, and we want to, in particular, thank everyone that made this meeting possible. To everyone in the Ministry of Environment, to our special guests, to the entire team of the United Nations, and everyone working on
amigos,
climate.
se acabó el
Friends,
tiempo.
time's
Estamos
up.
destruyendo el planeta.
We are
Sin duda
destroying
que
the
han habido
planet.
avances. Y yo felicito
There
sinceramente
have
y
been
agradezco de todo
there has been
corazón
progress,
a todo el
certainly,
que ha
and I
contribuido a adelantar
sincerely and
nuestra causa
wholeheartedly thank
de enfrentar el
everyone who
cambio
has
climático.
contributed to
Pero
advancing
estamos
our
aquí para
cause
decirnos la verdad de
of
frente
addressing climate change.
y con
But we're
franqueza.
here to tell each other the truth,
Los
head
avances
on
han sido
and candidly.
insignificantes
This
cuando lo
progress,
comparamos con el
these
tamaño
advances
del
has been
reto que
insignificant
tenemos por delante.
when we compare it to the
Y
size
por eso tus
of the
palabras,
challenge
Simon,
ahead.
son tan bien
That is why your
recibidas.
words, Simon,
Es que estamos
are
acabando
so
con la
welcomed.
biodiversidad y con el
We
mundo
are
natural que nos
ending
rodea. Mientras
biodiversity
nosotros estamos
and we
aquí
are
hoy,
destroying it and the
se
natural
está
world
dando la
around
mayor
us. While we
extinción
are
de
here
especies
today,
y ecosistemas
the
naturales
largest extinction of a
en este
species is taking
pequeño
place,
globo azul,
of a
el único
species
con
and
vida en
natural
el universo.
ecosystems. And this is the
Desde que
only,
desaparecieron los
this small
dinosaurios.
blue glove is the
No
only one with
contentos
life
con
in the
eso, no
universe since
contentos
the
con
dinosaurs
destruir la vida
disappeared.
y la creación de nuestra casa común,
It seems
estamos
that destroying
causando
life
un
and
cambio
creation is not
climático
enough for
global
us,
que todos
destroying
ustedes y yo
everything in our
conocemos muy
common and
bien,
shared
en un
home.
planeta
We are
cada vez
also
más
causing a
caliente,
global climate
que
change
sufre más los extremos
that
climáticos
makes our planet
causados por el cambio
increasingly
climático,
warmer, suffering
incluyendo el
more and
calor
more from weather
extremo,
extreme
los
temperatures,
incendios forestales,
including extreme
las
heat,
sequías,
forest
las
fires,
inundaciones
drought,
y los demás
flooding,
impactos que vivimos a diario en nuestros
and
países.
other impacts we
Pero
experience
nosotros seguimos
daily
viniendo a
in
estas
our
reuniones
countries. But we keep
cómodos,
coming to these
con aire
meetings,
acondicionado, hablando
comfortable with air
amablemente,
conditioning,
generando papeles
talking
y
kindly,
palabras vacíos,
generating papers
mientras el
and
planeta
pronouncing
arde
empty
y los
words
avances concretos
while the
frente al
planet
cambio climático
burns
son pocos o
and the
nulos.
concrete progress for
No
climate
podemos
change
permitirnos más
is
excusas.
little or non-existent.
Cada
We
país,
can't
cada
afford
uno de
any more
nosotros,
excuses.
en nuestros
Each
países, cada
country,
uno de nuestros
each one of
gobiernos,
us in our
tiene que hacerse
countries,
responsable
each one of
de
our
su propia
governments
conducta.
has to
Cada uno
take
de nuestros países
responsibility
tiene
for
que
its
hacerse
own conduct,
responsable
for its own
de su
behavior.
propio futuro
Each of our
para
countries has
poder
to
entonces
take
juntos
responsibility for its
hacernos
own future,
responsables del
to
futuro
be
del
able
planeta. ¿Cómo queremos
to
acabar
jointly
con la deforestación o la
take
pérdida de
responsibility for
biodiversidad
the
en el
future of
planeta
the planet?
si no
How do we
estamos
want
dispuestos
to
a
end
tomar las
the loss
decisiones
of
difíciles
biodiversity
dentro de
or
cada
the
uno de nuestros países
deforestation
para
if we're
contribuir
not
a esta
willing to
meta?
make difficult decisions within
Esto
our
no funciona
countries
así.
to contribute to this goal?
Para arreglar el planeta
This
tenemos primero
doesn't
que arreglar
work
nuestra
like that.
casa, el
To
país de
fix the
cada uno de
planet,
nosotros.
we must first fix our
Empieza
houses.
entonces por
That is our
garantizar
countries.
la conservación de los bosques,
We must
los
start
manglares,
by ensuring the
nuestros
conservation of
océanos,
forests, of
ríos y
mangroves,
ambientes naturales,
oceans, rivers,
así como la
and natural
biodiversidad que estos
environments,
albergan
as
dentro de
well
cada uno
as
de
the
nuestros países.
biodiversity they
Ninguno de
contain
ustedes,
within each of
ni
our
nosotros en
countries.
Panamá, necesita
None of
venir
you,
aquí
neither us
o ir a
nor us
Brasil
in Panama,
para hacer nuestro
need
trabajo.
to come here or go to Brazil to do
Necesitamos que
our job.
actuemos todos
We need
individualmente como
to act
naciones, primero,
together
dentro de cada
individually
uno de
as
nuestros
nations
países,
first
de inmediato, para conservar
within
nuestro
our
patrimonio
countries
natural.
immediately
¿Hay
to
algún
preserve
otro paso
our natural
inmediato más
heritage.
evidente?
Is there
¿Tienen
any
ustedes alguna
other
otra prioridad? Por favor,
immediate step
compártanla.
that
Si
is
no
more
podemos hacer el
obvious? Do you
trabajo
have
dentro de
any
nuestros
other
propios
priority
países,
here?
¿cómo
Please
estamos
share it,
pensando en
because
hacerlo
if
a nivel
not, we
global?
cannot work within our countries.
Y es que en
If we cannot
paralelo
work within our own
a
countries,
conservar
how are
nuestra
we planning to
biodiversidad en
do it
nuestros bosques,
globally?
urge
In parallel
acelerar
to
la
the
transición
preservation of
hacia
our
energías
biodiversity
limpias,
and our
hacia la
forest,
movilidad
it is
eléctrica
urgent to
y hacia la
accelerate transition to clean
descarbonización,
energy, to
descarbonización
electric
de nuestras
mobility,
economías.
and to the
Que ningún
decarbonization
país
of
siga
our
asistiendo
economies.
a estas cumbres
Let no country continue to assist and to attend this summit to make excuses instead of presenting concrete results. There is no valid excuse, and the planet cannot wait any longer. In Panama, we don't have all the answers, nor are we perfect. We haven't achieved it yet, but Panama is leading by example in many of these cases. 70% of our energy is clean energy and renewable energy. We are a carbon negative country. However, we suffer the scourges of climate change. We suffered a terrible drought 2 years ago that cost us more than $1 billion and cost loss in canal revenue. 1 year later, then we had catastrophic precipitations that cost lives and tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure losses. It is unjust. A carbon negative country is paying the price of climate change. And we are a global blue leader with more than 54.3% of our territorial seas that are protected. We were one of the first countries to ratify the OBBNJ, the High Seas Treaty. We have ratified in our assembly the Marrakesh Agreement that our president will temporarily sanction in the next few days. And we have also attacked illegal fishing in our seas head on, eradicating these bad practices, and we keep fighting and we keep eradicating it from our protected areas with interdiction and fine action. We are green leaders too, not just blue leaders, with more than 35.8% of our territory that is protected and preserved in 120 protected areas. We received last year, on July the 1st, an environmental anarchy that we have converted and are converting into true national parks and natural reserves, not just in paper. With new park rangers nationwide, we have doubled our strength in 1 year with clearly defined boundaries for these areas, not only defined but also signaled with strong connections to local communities. Please, let each of us do the same in our own countries and do much more. Friends, I conclude with a call for immediate action. Each country must do what it knows it has to do within its own territory. Each one of you, dear delegates, please do what you know you have to do within your own countries. Let's all agree together on concrete steps and actions here with defined deadlines to also act globally on the basis of each individual's internal action, so that we can truly stop climate change at a planetary level. That is why Panama proposed and today reiterates our nature pledge to present our commitments from now on, both at a climatic and diversity level, and also plastics and desertification in a single commitment, so that in the future this single commitment can become a single global COP, a single global conference of the parties. If there are less COPs, there will be less travel, less cocktails, less touristy activities, less empty speeches, and more concrete action with specific achievements to truly confront with determination climate change. In other words, no more empty words, no more criminal passive starvation while our countries and our planet are destroyed. No more talk and words carried away by the wind. I ask and beg you that each of our countries implements concrete, immediate action to stop this devastating crisis so that Belém is a celebration of the great global climate consensus and of our unlimited possibilities as a planet and as a species. This is what we can achieve when we are together, thinking about the common good and our common home. Welcome once more to Panama. Now, let's get back to work.
Muchísimas gracias, señor ministro, por ese llamado tan importante y por compartir los
Thank you
logros
very much,
que ha
Minister,
logrado
for
Panamá
that
en temas
very
de
important
sostenibilidad.
call and for
With
sharing
this, we conclude
the
the first
achievements of
segment
Panama.
of our high-level ceremonial opening. Please join me in extending our warmest appreciation and a heart farewell to a distinguished first set of speakers. We will now move into the second segment of today's ceremony. I kindly invite our next group of high-level speakers to join us at the stage. Invito cordialmente a nuestros próximos oradores de alto nivel a que nos acompañen en el
These high-level speakers to join us in the podium.
Bienvenidos de nuevo. Sin más preámbulo, tengo el honor de ceder la palabra a Su Excelencia Lena Yanina Estrada Añocazzi.
Further ado, I would like to give the floor to Her Excellency Yanina Estrada Ñocatzi, Minister of the Environment of Colombia. The floor is yours.
Muy buenos días a todos y a todas.
Good morning, everyone.
A los altos representantes, al señor Simon
To
Steele, secretario
the
ejecutivo de la
High
Convención del Banco de
Representatives, to
Naciones
Mr.
Unidas,
Steele,
al gobierno de
Executive
Panamá,
Secretary of the
que ha
UNEP
liderado un
CCC,
excelente
to the
trabajo
government of
como anfitrión
Panama
de
that
este
has
evento
led
tan
an excellent
importante,
work as a
a
host
los
for
delegados,
this
colegas
important
que están
event,
en este
to the
recinto.
delegates
Para
and
mí es
colleagues who are
realmente
here
un
in this
honor
room
compartir
today.
con ustedes
It is a
en este
great
foro de
pleasure
implementación que
and honor
representa
for me
evidentemente
to
uno de los
share with you in
momentos
this implementation forum
más relevantes de la
that
Semana del Clima
represents
en
one of the
2025.
most relevant
Este es un
moments of
espacio
the
de encuentro, de
2025 Climate
escucha,
Week.
pero sobre todo es un
This
espacio
is
de
a
acción
space
colectiva.
to meet, to
Desde
listen to
Colombia
each other, but above all, it is a
creemos
space for collective action.
firmemente en que
In
la acción
Colombia,
climática no
we
puede
firmly
construirse en
believe
silencio
that climate
ni entre
action
pocos.
cannot
La
be built
única
in
forma
silence or
de
cannot be
avanzar
achieved
en
in
soluciones
silence, nor
reales,
by a few.
sostenibles
The
y
only way
justas
to move
es
towards
uniendo
real,
las agendas
sustainable,
climáticas a
and
todas
fair
las voces,
solutions is by
a los
opening
gobiernos,
the
sí,
climate agenda to
pero
all
también
voices,
a los pueblos
to
indígenas,
governments,
a las
yes, but
comunidades,
also to
al sector
indigenous
privado,
peoples, to
a la
communities,
juventud,
to the
a
private
las
sector,
mujeres,
to the
a la
youth,
academia
to women,
y a quienes
to the
siendo
academia,
parte honor
and
de esta
to
convención
those
trabajan de
who,
manera decidida y
parties or not to this
comprometida desde
convention,
cada uno de los
work
territorios.
decisively
El cambio
and
climático
committedly from
no
each of the
distingue
territories.
fronteras, pero
climate change that does not distinguish borders, but it does demand shared responsibility. And that or shared responsibility, is expressed by our will to listen to each other based on mutual respect and recognition. Colombia comes to this forum with the firm conviction that climate change and climate action, I apologize, must be empathetic, not only with people, but also empathetic with nature. Today, more than ever, we need a new ethic for development that doesn't separate human life from the territory, from the land, and that it's not done at the expense of the most vulnerable. Life and land are one and the same. Today, we need climate action that listens to science and also the knowledge of indigenous peoples and local communities, of Afro descendant peoples. We needed to move towards an economy that is free of fossil fuels. We needed to unite the discussions of just transition and of action implementation to stop climate crisis, and that it is also necessary for the protection of human rights. This is a priority. Science and knowledge are telling us it is necessary for it. Climate action must reduce vulnerabilities and generate living conditions that are fair, that are decent in each and every one of our territories. History has taught us and continues to teach us that great changes require teamwork. That is why I also make a call for the unity of all peoples and nations. One voice alone doesn't make a difference. We need to work together. When there are determined wills, good decisions have always been the result of the meetings. And this fight against climate change is perhaps the greatest of things. We need a global alliance based on action and active hope, where each stakeholder does its part with the certainty that it is building towards a just, resilient, and humane future. In addition, it's necessary to mention that it is not enough to design technical plans from desktops. We need to collectively implement solutions from the territories with the communities with whom know realities, risks, opportunities, and that those people are the ones that can present and propose their solution. That correlation demands that we speak in another language, a clearer language of lesser technical nature, more understandable and more appropriate and adapted to the realities, because participating is also understanding. A communication strategy that reaches all stakeholders is as important as good climate policy. It is also key to recognize that engagement or participation is not just about consultation. It is also the ability to act directly. That is why in Colombia, we are convinced that climate finance should not remain in the hands of individual and private actors or financial and private actors. It should also reach indigenous peoples and communities. COP30, the COP of the indigenous peoples of the Amazon, has us convinced that we need to see the results in these matters. Another aspect to take into account is climate territorialization. Colombia is a great country with a very large ecological and cultural diversity, but also with great historical inequalities. That is why our nationally determined contribution, or NDC, focuses us on the reduction of emissions. We must concentrate and focus on our ambition of on building resilience, risk management, and peace with climate justice. We have identified the most vulnerable territories, and it is there where resources must go first. Resources and efforts, because we must decentralize management and operation of climate action. When communities participate in the design and implementation of measures, they take ownership of them, they defend them, and they integrate them into their daily lives. These guarantees and ensure solutions that last beyond governments and that endure beyond funding cycles. Climate change is a symptom of a model that needs immediate changes. Colombia is betting on an economy free of fossil fuels and a productive transformation from the stance of sectorial commitment and built on the grassroots, from the grassroots. Colombia also bets on a restructuring of its financial structure. The triple planetary crisis, climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss are completely linked. We will not be able to meet the Paris Agreement goals if we continue consuming and producing plastics at the levels we do today. We're not going to achieve it either if we don't put biodiversity at the center. That is why we are betting on an agenda point that allows us to bring a synergy between climate change and biodiversity to our conversation. Within this context, we want to materialize the implementation forum as a space to concentrate innovative methods and means to overcome common barriers, financing, access to technology, and the strengthening of capacity building, so we can also achieve this to answer to the call the local communities and that science is making. Transition to a free from fossil economy and a fossil fuel free economy is an opportunity to weave alliances and to build new models that are also replicable and that can be scaled, adapted, and multiplied in the different territories, regions, and sectors. It is also critical that the implementation of climate action puts financial mechanisms at the center. These mechanisms should not increase countries' debt. Countries such as Colombia, that are centers or critical centers to address the climate change. On the contrary, this must be recognized. Ladies and gentlemen, the Climate Week is not a parallel agenda to the negotiations. It is the backbone. This is where we can share and project solutions that are real. We hope that this Climate Week will be remembered not only due to our speeches, but for our commitment, responding to science, knowledge, and to the actions that we implement together, and to the voices that are less recognized, like those of the indigenous peoples. May this forum help us to consolidate a new pact among humanity and nature. The efforts of each person, of each organization, of each sector, population, and country count. Facing and tackling the climate crisis is not a task for a few, and it will not be achieved with a single solution. It is a result of thousands of actions that are coordinated, large and small actions, added together and with conviction, coherence, and urgency. These and each contribution has a transformative power. We are here today to recognize that power and to unite it to our common cause, our common house, that is Mother Earth. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señora ministra. Now
Thank you very much, Minister.
Rafiev, Azerbaijan Deputy Foreign Minister and lead negotiator and representative from the COP29 presidency, to deliver your statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to join you for the return of the UN Climate Weeks. I wish to express my deepest gratitude to the government and people of Panama for helping us to bring us all together. And I must thank all our dear friends from across the UN system who have helped to make this possible. Colleagues, at COP29, we have achieved many historic outcomes. We set up high-integrity carbon markets. We got the fund for responding loss and damage up and running. We agreed the Baku finance goal to mobilize at least $300 billion to the developing world by 2035. And we took many more critical steps forward. Overall, we catalyzed trillions of dollars for climate action. We proved that countries can agree and process can deliver. And we closed the Paris rulebook, making the agreement fully operational after 10 years of impasse. This means that we can now fully move into implementation mode. This Climate Week presents yet another valuable opportunity to build on the momentum created by COP decisions and to fully harness the opportunities they offer. The week has already begun with meaningful and insightful discussions on topics that are critical to advancing global climate action. Exchanging experiences and learning from one another is essential to integrating best practices into our efforts to tackle climate change and enable a just and equitable transitions. I'm therefore optimistic that this week's discussions, combined with the experiences shared by our partners, will contribute to actionable solutions and meaningful implementation at the national level. Ladies and gentlemen, it's crucial to highlight that the success of the decision taken in Baku, as well as overall COP process, will now depend less on what governments agree and more on what nations deliver. As the COP29 presidency, we will remain active to make sure that everyone follows through on the promise that they made in Baku, because these promises are essential to enabling local action. First, we are calling on donors to set out how they will deliver their fair share of $300 billion they pledged in Baku. And we are making sure that they are focused on early milestones. This year, they are supposed to double adaptation finance compared to 2019 levels. And by 2030, they need to triple the outflows from the official UNFCCC climate funds. We are also keeping the COP29 action agenda active. We are running the initiatives we launched in Baku on climate and peace, finance, investment and trade, human development, farmers, transparency, urban climate action, and health. And we are now focusing minds on the issues at the frontiers of the climate crisis with our COP29 pledges and declarations. This includes digitalization, tourism, water, methane from organic waste, energy storage and grids, hydrogen, energy zones, and corridors. We are encouraged to see so many people embracing Brazil's call for a global mutirão. We hope this can foster an even greater sense of collective responsibility, collaboration, and individual empowerment. These are all essential to addressing the climate crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, we face another difficult year for climate action, and the science is telling us that we urgently need to act. But we have overcome challenges before, and it's clear that we need to preserve the process. We must move into the delivery mode, fulfill our past promises, and focus on what we can contribute. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rafiev. It gives me great pleasure now to invite to the podium Ms. Anna Toni, Chief Executive Officer of the incoming COP30 presidency. Please.
Like this, good. Good morning, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It's a really big honor to be here. I wanted to thank, first of all, the government of Panama for welcoming us here in the name of the Minister Navarro. What a beautiful country, really beautiful country, and it's very inspiring being here. I want to thank the UNEP CCC Secretariat for helping putting all of this together, as well as thanking all the panelists, especially the minister from Colombia and our colleagues from Azerbaijan, that we're working so close together throughout this troika in the last few years, and my colleagues from the UN as well. This meeting is a really important meeting, not only, as Simon mentioned, that inaugurates a new type, a new format of Climate Week. And I'm so happy, Simon, that's linked to implementation. We heard from the Minister Navarro the importance of us moving that page and accelerating implementation. And I think the way you have thought about creating now this space for us to exchange and seeing the reality on how are we implementing our NDCs and our commitments is a really important step towards working together on implementation. This meeting is also really important. I'm so happy because it's in Latin America. And obviously it's home for us from Brazil, it's home for us here to be in Panama. We heard everything Panama is doing, we heard what Colombia is doing. We really truly believe that Latin America is an inspiration for what's possible. We normally work very close together. We cater for our forests. We have energy that's very renewable in most countries in Latin America. So I think we can really be, as a region, part of the solution, working together with our colleagues from all different continents to bring those solutions at scale. And the topics that has been chosen to debate here, forest, just transition, adaptation, those are topics that are so, so important for all of us. I had the privilege on Monday to visit the Panama Canal. And I could see with my own eyes on the story that Minister Navarro mentioned here, what happens to a country like Panama when you have droughts as you experienced in 2024. The same droughts you had here that stopped the Panama Canal at a certain extent, now getting ships, if I understood, 36 ships traveling to 24 ships only being able to cross. That climate change is a very important topic for economics, for competitiveness, for the social well-being. if climate has come to many of us because we attend international meetings like this one or the COPs, for the majority of people, climate change has come to their homes through floods, through heat waves, through droughts. And I think that sense of urgency that brings us all here and looking at what can we do together to push some of those issues now up in COP30. So for COP30, you probably read some of Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago, the president of COP30, that unfortunately is not here with us, but send the regards for everyone. He's been very clear in each letter, some of the priorities for COP30, working together with all of you. And many of our priorities was speaken up by everyone already today. The first is, after a decade of important rulemaking on the rule book, now we need to turn the page to accelerate implementation. So acceleration of implementation in concrete manners is a key priority for COP30. Secondly, a key priority for us is doing this together. So reinforcing multilateralism, togetherness, helping each other, rethinking cooperation in a way that we leave no one behind is a very important priority for COP30 as well. And we know that we can do this together by reinforcing the multilateral approach that we have taken in combat climate change. I think the minister mentioned climate change has no borders, no frontiers, and that's the importance of us working together. The third big priority for us is let us look at solution, less finger pointing, much more scaling solutions that we know that communities, local governments, private sector, federal governments, indigenous peoples, they are bringing solutions. That's why COP30 called for this global multirão, these indigenous, beautiful indigenous words that says is a collective action for a shared goal. We are going to have a session about the global multirão this afternoon. So I invited all of you there for that session because everybody can be part of the solution. If you're not part of the solution, we know we are part of the problem. And I wanted to finalize bringing the sense of urgency that we all have the responsibility to bring to this meeting in Panama, as well as to the meetings in Bonn, and then obviously at COP30. The urgency of climate change urges us to rethink what have we done up to now. We have done many good things, but let us rethink some of the processes. Let us rethink some of the negotiations processes that we have taken, and let us ask ourselves, how can we do better? How can we do faster? How can we do in a more inclusive manner so that we can accelerate concrete actions? This is the time when I hope throughout this process, because we know that COPs are not silver bullets, we need to think about the entire process, but we have the opportunity to inaugurate a new decade that brings urgency to the actions, and let us fail for trying. Let us fail if needed for risking, but let us not fail for inaction or fear, because I think there's our children, grandchildren, and the next generation will look at us and ask us, where were we when that urgency that we all know that we have, where were we when we're decision makers that could push faster? And I think that's what brings us in COP30, that sense of urgency and collectiveness so that we can get to 1.5. That's possible if we do it together. So thank you so much for having us here, and we're looking forward to see all of you in Belém. Thank you very much.
Muito obrigado, Mrs. Tony. We will now hear the remarks from Mrs. Helen Gabriela Meirovich, Managing Director, Climate and Environment Division, Inter-American Development Bank. She will be speaking on behalf of the multilateral development banks.
Thank you, Alejandro.
Um, well, thank you for inviting us. It is an honor for me to speak on behalf of the multilateral development banks as we gather in the implementation forum to discuss how we can bridge between ambition to implementation, which requires mobilizing finance, unlocking technologies, and sharing know-how. We're grateful for the invitation to be part of this conversation, despite that we are not parties to the UNFCCC. But as MDBs, we don't sign the conventions, but our countries that we serve are. So we're deeply committed to supporting them in achieving their climate and development goals. We're also welcoming the restructuring of the climate wheels to engage and to look for solutions, because we have a lot of examples to showcase from across the globe. We acknowledge that we play as MDBs a vital role in translating ambition into action and in accelerating sustainable, resilient growth across the whole globe. As you know, in 2024, we renewed our commitment to deliver finance for low carbon and resilient investments, which serve as a stepping stone to the new NCQG. And in 2025, we will continue to support countries in the road back from Baku to Belém with a focus on impact and scale. Each of our institutions work differently. We serve different regions, but we are all increasingly working as a system to help countries meet their needs and in a manner that promotes a safe and healthy future. We're working together to access finance and the tools needed to leverage opportunities for the green transformation and build resilient economies and also societies. But what we bring is not only finance. We also bring experience, we bring knowledge, we bring example of what works, and also lessons of what doesn't. Across sectors and geographies, we are having a wealth of practical insights that can support the UNFCCC from the ground up. Today, I hope I have the opportunity to talk to many of you on how to overcome investment barriers, increasing the impacts of the intervention, and leveraging MDB platforms and instruments to drive systemic change. I look forward to discussing topics like Article 6 or scaling up investment for resilient infrastructure, not just to protect the climate risks, but to enhance the quality of our investments. Finally, and looking ahead to COP30 in Belém, I would like to take the chance to invite you all to visit our joint MDB pavilion, where we will be showcasing climate co-benefits of the innovative work we are doing with governments, civil society, private sector, communities, and other shareholders. Beyond that, our pavilion will be a space to listen, to exchange ideas, and to build bridges between ambition and action. We look forward to working with all of you on the road from the land and beyond. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for those valuable insights from multilateral development banks. Ahora deseo darle la palabra al señor Juan Bello, director y representante regional de la Oficina
The floor to Juan Bello, Director of the Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean of the United Nations Environmental Program.
Muchas gracias, Alejandro. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Alejandro.
Directors, delegates, colleagues, and friends, all protocol observed. I would like to begin by thanking the government of Panama for their warm welcome and leadership, the UNFCCC Secretariat, the NDC Partnership, UNDP, and all partners that have brought us here together. También quiero aprovechar la ocasión para reconocer a todos los gobiernos locales, la sociedad civil.
I'd like to seize this opportunity to acknowledge all the local governments, the civil society, the indigenous peoples, the leaders, the youth that will be here joining us throughout this week. Your voices are of the essence to boost this climate agenda, not only as observers, but as leaders, as implementers, and as first-line stakeholders in the change we all need.
2024 marked the hottest year ever recorded, and 2025 is on track to be ranked in the top warmest years on record. Our oceans are heating, glaciers are vanishing, and communities across our region are already living the consequences of climate inaction. But we are not here to dwell in despair. As highlighted by the incoming COP30 presidency of Brazil, this is the time to move from vision to action. The call is clear. We need a global climate mutirao, a collective mobilization that connects climate policy to people's lives. This is not a future agenda. This is a now agenda. In this context, Latin America and the Caribbean can lead. As the climate crisis accelerates, our leadership is not only just desirable, it is essential. But we must overcome persistent barriers: economic inequality, fragmented institutions, and financial systems that still undervalue nature. By acting together, we can redefine prosperity and drive the transition to inclusive, nature-positive economies and societies. That is why NDC 3.0 must go beyond the climate document. It must serve as our national and regional blueprint for sustainable development. Through the changes that we will have this week, we aim to foster and strengthen interministerial coordination, enhance access to finance, and unlock private sector engagement. Together, including through the NDC Clinic, proudly supported by UNEP, we are defining what it takes to make an NDC not just implementable and investable, but truly transformational for people and planet. Let me be clear. UNEP stands ready to support countries every step of the way. Our vision is rooted in connecting climate, biodiversity, and water agendas and creating social and economic co-benefits and opportunities. We are working alongside countries to design innovative finance solutions, strengthen governance frameworks, and develop metrics that respond to the outcomes of the global stocktake and accelerate the adoption of nature-based solutions. Let Panama Climate Week be the spark of a broader regional mutirao, a collective mobilization where governments, cities, communities, and businesses step up with concrete, measurable contributions. Let's carry that spirit forward to Belém, to COP30, and beyond. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor Bello. Now I would like to kindly ask Mr. José Vicente Troya.
Mr. Bello, I would like to now give the floor to José Vicente Troya, Regional Home Manager of the United Nations Management Program.
Muy buenos días con todas y con todos. Un verdadero honor darles la bienvenida.
Everyone, it's a great honor to welcome you to this Climate Week 2025 in the vibrant and resilient city of Panama. I want to extend my appreciation and gratitude to the government of Panama for hosting us, and to all of you that are here on behalf of your government, civil society, indigenous peoples, the private sector, youth, and international organizations. Thank you for being here.
Challenges for climate change, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation. And this year, with COP30, is a critical time to achieve robust and implementable NDCs that allows us to be in the right trajectory of the Paris Agreement. La naturaleza y la energía proveen soluciones muy poderosas para enfrentar la crisis climática.
Provide powerful solutions to face climate crisis. Solutions based on nature allow us to face the main emission sources and in turn benefit those communities that depend the most on resources and natural ecosystems. Also, the transitioning from fossil fuel can allow us to build energy systems that are resilient and diverse and that are rooted in renewable energy such as solar, wind, and geothermal energy. These include decarbonizing transportation. One of the largest and most growing sources of emission in Latin America and the Caribbean, and in turn, it allows us to expand access and equity within clean energy transitions.
as a connector at the nexus of climate, nature, and development, supporting the co-creation of solutions across 140 countries with 2.3 billion climate portfolio and 3.4 billion nature portfolio. We strive to achieve impact on a scale, believing in the power of integrated solutions and innovative approaches across climate, nature, and energy to unlock finance for development, protecting both people and the planet. A través de la promesa climática, nosotros trabajamos globalmente con los
Climate
gobiernos para
Pledge,
diseñar
we
e implementar
work
la nueva
globally with
generación
governments to
de
design and
contribuciones
implement
nacionalmente
the new
determinadas,
generation
apoyando a
of
33
NDCs,
países en América Latina y en el
providing
Caribe,
support to
y
33
apoyando
countries in Latin
también
America and the
el
Caribbean,
aumento
and
en sus
also
compromisos
supporting
con el
the
clima
or
y
providing
poniendo
support
al
to the
frente
increase
acciones
in their
inclusivas
commitments to
y
climate
ambiciosas.
and putting forward
Déjenme contarles
inclusive and
cómo la
ambitious
acción
action.
climática puede
Allow me
ser
to share with
un
you
sinónimo
how
de
climate
desarrollo.
change can
El
be a
compromiso que
synonym
pueden
of
adquirir los
development.
países a través de
The
asegurar
commitment of
que la
countries
igualdad efectiva
by
de las mujeres y
ensuring
las
that
niñas
effective
dentro de la acción
equality of
climática
women
sea
and
un acelerador
girls
para
in
ese ejercicio es
action
algo que ya
is an
está teniendo lugar
accelerator,
y hay
is
países que ya han
something that
abrazado
has
los
gained
planes
momentum,
nacionales de
has its
inclusión de
own
las mujeres
space,
y las
and
niñas
countries have
como prioridad
already
nacional
embraced
para acelerar
the
la acción
national plans for
climática.
the inclusion of
Y al
women and
haberlos
girls as
declarado
a national priority to
como
accelerate
prioridad
climate
nacional,
action.
han
And
permitido
being
que
declared as a national
ministerios que
priority,
usualmente no
they
disfrutaban de
have
mayores poderes,
allowed
como los
for
ministerios
ministries
desafortunadamente de
that
ambiente
had
o de condición de la mujer,
very little
de
power,
la
like
noche a
the
la
ministries
mañana
of
adquieran
the
una suerte
environment
de
or
superpoderes
ministries
a través de
of
esta
women,
declaratoria de prioridad
overnight
nacional que
acquired
les habilita
superpowers
para que
through
puedan
the
exigir
declaration of
a sus
national
pares,
priority
a los
that
ministerios de
enables them
finanzas, a
to
los ministerios de
require from their
planificación nacional,
peers, the
para que
Ministry of
otorguen los recursos
Finances, the
y los
ministries of
instrumentos de
national
planificación
planning,
que
to
requiere
grant
la acción
resources
climática que se
and
basa en
planning
colocar en el
instruments that
centro
are
de la acción
required
a
by
las
climate
mujeres y a las
action.
niñas.
And these
The
implies
effective
placing
implementation of the
women and
NDCs
girls
requires a
at the
bold
heart
shift
of
in how
action.
we mobilize and align public and private finance, both considering mitigation and adaptation targets. Financial systems, public and private actors shall align on the same long-term development goals. The Climate Week marks a critical moment, not just to reflect, but to act. Indeed, we are not only confronting an environmental emergency, but a human one. Climate change is exacerbating inequality, displacing communities, and threatening development progress, especially impacting the livelihoods of women, youth, indigenous peoples, and Afro-descendant communities. The world is watching, and future generations are counting on us to do more than speak. They are counting on us to deliver. I wish you all productive discussions and fruitful encounters to tie the partnerships and reaffirm the commitments our planet needs. Just let me finish diciendo, ¿por qué no acogemos ese llamado a la esperanza
Why
que nos hacía
won't we
la ministra de
embrace
Ambiente de
that
Colombia?
call for a
Ese
hope
deber que tenemos
by
con
the
la
Ministry of
esperanza para
Environment in
abrazar
Colombia? It's a duty that we have to embrace these new development pillars. Action is development. Protecting biodiversity means prosperity. We need to enforce effective equality of gender equality and inclusion of women and girls as the lingua franca, as the shared language for humanity. We hope the best for this Climate Week 2025.
Muchísimas gracias, señor Troya. To conclude this round of statements,
thank you very much, Mr. Troya.
A video recorded message from Mrs. Gloria de León, Administradora General de la Autoridad de Turismo de Panamá. You can call it.
Authority in Panama. It is a
Morning,
recorded
distinguished
video.
participants. We are honored to host this important gathering that highlights the challenges and opportunities for global climate action, one of the most urgent issues of our time. Your presence reflects a strong commitment to sustainability and to the collective action we must take now. Though small in size, Panama plays a key role in the fight against climate change thanks to its geographic position and rich natural resources. As one of only 4 carbon-negative countries in the world, we absorb more CO2 than we emit, thanks to our extensive forest and conservation efforts. This speaks to our people's deep connection with nature. Panama's biodiversity, from unique ecosystems to its role as a bridge between oceans, makes it a vital hub for both species migration and global collaboration. Our natural wealth positions us as both a living lab for conservation and an authentic destination where visitors connect meaningfully with nature, supporting sustainable development and local communities. Hosting Climate Week underscores Panama's leadership in climate action and strengthens our role as a regional hub for conferences and conventions. I wish you a productive event. May it foster partnerships, sparks real solutions, and drive us toward a more sustainable future. Once again, welcome to Panama.
With this inspiring video, we conclude this high-level ceremonial opening, but please join me once again in extending our deepest appreciation to our all distinguished speakers. So indeed, this concludes our opening ceremony, but however, as today implementation forum continues, I'm pleased to pass the baton to the COP30 presidency, who will guide us through 2 distinct events, one focused on the future of climate action and the other introducing the concept of Amutirao, a collaborative effort to prepare us all to work together towards meaningful climate solutions. With that, I would like to introduce, after a short break, Mr. Mario Motin from the COP30 presidency, who will lead us on this journey. Mario, the stage is yours. Thank you, and I wish you a pleasant and productive day. Muchas gracias y que tengan un día muy productivo.
There are no limits to the power of collective action. Acting together for the planet means joining forces to tackle the climate crisis. Only through cooperation among all nations can we address global challenges. By embracing the principles of multilateralism, solidarity, and innovation. Brazil holds a historic commitment to acting for our planet. We hosted Rio 92 and Rio +20, and we actively participate in international negotiations for climate